Hello, hello. This is Pixie doing another video. Probably fairly short. MGTOW, and I'm just thinking about, because it's generally, I think it's come from an erosion or some sort of separation. Politics have got in the way, gender control, gender manipulation, and state control and influence as well. What's happening here? One with your lights on, one with the other one with your lights on, but stop still. Yeah. And you can see the state's ideology when you hear the politicians speak. Arranging better of childcare, getting more women into the workplace. Is that what they want? Is that what women want? I mean, I'm sure they want to work, but do they want to be stuck in the workplace? Is that the strategy for women? They want to be so career-minded that they struggle to sort of maintain the family relationship, and the children are then sort of handed over to the state. So the child grows up with this kind of mixed thing of having a childminder and sort of raised with sort of these mixed standards. The thing about childminders is they work to certain standards set out by the state. So you might have childminders that are told you can't refer to men and women. You have to say they're people, and it's okay if you feel like you're gay or something. You know, there's all sorts of unusual things that I hear that I just think are nuts. They really are sometimes. At a certain age, children shouldn't have any gender interest. I mean, they should be interested in gender. Okay, that's just an inquisitive mind. Well, we'll look into these things, but they shouldn't have any kind of fixed. They should be as flexible as they want to. They should be able to think openly about things. They shouldn't be told this is right, this is wrong, this is how to think. But that's what happens. You know, you can't say this, you can't say that. But that some cultures are not being taught and forced to think like that. I don't think Jewish cultures, for instance, are not saying, "Oh yeah, you've got to accept this, you've got to accept that." And also on TV, you're not going to see gay Jewish actors and stuff like that, because they kind of promote themselves slightly different. And I guess when I talk about Jewish, it's quite a wide spectrum. Like Muslims is a giant spectrum. There's an elite group that get involved with banks, involved with Hollywood, who see themselves as the upper crust of their society, and they probably got their own little secular beliefs inside of that. And as a result, they're quite aware that if they keep the other side busy, they see everyone are in competition. And so whites, for example, or Caucasians is what they should be referred to, but we're often called whites, and other labels get pushed across as well, like Christians and things like that, and you can't identify ourselves as that. It's a bit bizarre to say, oh yeah, you're white, you've got to be Christian. That used to be the mentality. There used to be mentality if you were, you know, if you were raised in a Christian state, you're automatically a Christian. So it's pretty hard for that. But I guess really for what Muslims want, not Muslims, Jewish should be saying is that are you an Israelite? And some of them are not, and it's questionable what they are is in that mixture. So it's more complicated. A bit like I probably mentioned, I possibly have some Jewish ancestry in the mix somewhere. I don't know how it all fits in. I'm not able to really say, only that there was the Huguenots connection with some of the family, and that they worked with some Jewish families over here, and also the area as well where the Huguenots were, and it was Soho, that's what they called it, the area of London. And it used to be very different back in the day, we say. Used to have lots of theatre things and stuff like that in the area. Now it's probably got more adult entertainment and little markets run by people who can't speak English. This is quite interesting. I did meet someone before, he said me no English, but I think his role was stocking up the food or veg or wherever it was, a little market I saw. So there's the erosion of the white culture, and it's happening on TV as well. It's, I mean, I understand diversity and equality, but I don't understand who's pushing what. And then you've got things like, you've got like car adverts, and they've got lesbian couples in it, and I don't understand the connection between the car. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's not a problem, but I'm wondering what are they trying to promote there? And I guess they want to say it's gender equality. Come on, let's let him go quick. I don't know if he can in one move. No, he won't. And the other thing I encounter, so what else would I encounter? And also, there's interracial relationships. There's a lot of that promoting. I've got no problem with that, but it feels like it's being promoted. And that goes away from equality. It's a bit like, like horror films. They might have like the token black guy who's a victim. He has to be thrown in there. But it's ingraining a message of victimisation, or they're a gangster or something. They can't be seen in another light. They have to fall into some sort of stereotype, because stereotypes make it easier to control people's outlooks and views on life. If you get people to believe they're this type of person or that type of person, and this comes back to a more kind of creepier. Well, people refer to archons and this idea of, possibly this kind of darker intelligence, and it's pushing us towards more machine world. So it's more towards the Matrix and stuff. And if you can be more like a machine, you can be more, you can be anticipated better as well, because your behaviour will fall into narratives, and narratives means it can be controlled. Why they're they knock out algorithms, but they're very difficult for the machines to predict, because humans change themselves at an emotional level, and so it conflicts and alters the algorithm, so they can become a different person. They can offset their character in order to succeed in a certain area of a task, a bit like ethics and so on. There's other stuff as well. So it's like with the MGTOW, it was defining sexes. So I call it Maleism. So male behaviour, male ideology, and so on. Maleism. I think there's also femalism over feminism, because one preserves a kind of duality of both, I guess. Speed. So I might work on some book or something around it. I want to define MGTOW as a kind of successful project, not that unsuccessful. It's caused debate and questions. And another thing about I was watching some political debates, and I think you had Boris Johnson, and you should never backslide and apologise or justify certain things. When things are taken out of perspective, just accept that that's what they are. And he's quite right to have set opinions, because where that car's going to go? Because I think that is a part of being a maleist or maleism. It's opinion. Women generate debate and opinion, so there's different sides of the fence. I mean, obviously, there's women have opinions, and male likes to debate things. So there's, but then again, equally, people represent different factions and ideals. So you've also got the male feminist, who seems to be offsetting because he wants to increase his popularity amongst the female groups, because he sees them as more dominant in the field. So you might get someone in an office environment. Some environments women dominate quite well, and other that men dominate. But the card that's played is the equality, and yet was hearing debate tonight about females and equality and things. I don't see the disharmony between the sexes, and it's not because I'm just a male. I think it's just been shouted out to it too much, like pay gaps and other things. It depends, maybe possibly because the male may have more time to put into his work, and he may be a bit more self-driven, so he's benefited from that in some way, and other men have actually helped him along that process. But it's no different than what I've seen with in a kind of a matriarchal structure, that people of equality, or what they would see, diversity. So you even have on the ethnic level, all their females, if they're female lesbians, they've got promoted a lot quicker, and their top boss has been a lesbian, so it's like giving them a green card or something. I don't quite understand that, but it could also be that they might assume they're not going to have children together, and that this person is going to be working at the same level as a man, so that's why they get treated in a particular different way, because other hard-working females have got overlooked. So there's, basically, it's okay to be prejudiced. People are. Where you need to draw the line is don't go out to hurt people, not unless you're at war with them. You have to decide what terms you're with the people. So that's probably the best way to look at it. And to offend someone, so there's collectivism is more of a female tool. I mean, they might work as a group to organise things, and it becomes a cooperative decisions, a collaboration. And that often happens, but men are form one singularity, and they operate slightly differently. I mean, to be a leader, you have to offset the crowd slightly. I mean, you're not trying to be everyone's best friend, because otherwise you won't get any sort of progress. And eventually, if you're saying the right things, people will start to almost be attracted to that male energy, and that's what it is. It cannot be female, otherwise you won't be attracted in the same way. You can be kind of nurtured by it, and it can that makes a lot of sense. But it's just the way the energy is probably quite hard to define it, because nobody is 100% male or female in that aspect. If you're kind of beta or you're alpha, then you're going to have kind of higher percentage of energy to be using it. Like people might be all about doing, authority, action, and that might be perceived as a male thing, while somebody might want to debate, nurture, develop, and that might be seen as a female thing. So one's more driven, say, towards money and power, and the other one's driven towards community and cohesion. So they're different aspects that both could claim, there's some male qualities in there, or you could achieve the same objective different ways. But clearly there's differences, and you can't have equality and diversity if you don't accept indifference and change and separation and identity. So basically don't believe all the nonsense being pumped out. A lot of it's been engineered, anything social engineering, and I guess really take a sidestep from some elite Jewish group of I think they call them Hexars or something like that, but it's more about another entity is being, like a neutral entity has been created, and it's like a state. So some type of statist, whereby it's a collective power base for an elite group, and to maintain control and leverage over the mass population. And at some point, they want people to lead them. They're quite happy to be subordinates. But then power always gets abused. So once somebody says, well, I like telling them what to do, and they like doing what I'm telling them what to do, You know, how do I better advantage myself? How do I take advantage of this position of trust? And that's what happens. It's maybe a reflection of some masculine type energy in there, but it becomes corrupted. I mean, it's like I guess any sex can be corrupted, but it's more open to debate. So I would look at that with these political debates and say, where is the male equality in this debate? And if someone says you don't need it, well, so obviously then you're not fit to debate something if you don't fully understand the issues. Because some people will do that. You will get women that knock you back because they're using it as a political tool to achieve an objective and further a cause or interest. But they might not fully understand what they're doing. It makes them feel good. They like the power. You know, there's these other things. People that might be intellectual may not have an emotional intelligence to understand the impact of their behaviour, or not care, or they're looking for further their own causes. It's political tools and control, and so these people may say they're looking at the best interests of a particular group, when actually they're probably putting their own interests first. I think I did have some stuff when I was thinking about there we go. And there's other perspective of Islamophobia, which doesn't exist in the terms of a Muslim's culture. It's a toolkit in the Western society for people to say, oh, they've been unfairly treated. Obviously, it's Islamophobia, which doesn't actually make sense. So, Islam fear, because you don't understand Islam and its status, and even some Muslims don't understand Islam as well. It should be open for debate, and that's definitely key about certain issues. Like there was a thing about somebody didn't want to show their face, but culturally maybe they don't. So maybe they're not in the right. They're not in the right job or career path if they have to engage with certain different cultures. And it's concerning what they're teaching children in schools as well. Like some boy said there's only two genders and he got done for it. And he's absolutely right. There is two genders, but there might be divergence from where they want to be. So somebody wants to think they're a male or a female, and maybe they're not, or they want to consider themselves something else. That's fine. But they still started out as one or the other. And there was a kind of biological thing where it would adhere to a certain path more. There's never going to be 50-50. I mean, apart from if you're a hermaphrodite, and even then they might favour a kind of a psychological level to be more female mentally or male. It's entirely up to them what they want to be. So, same old bloody thing before. I'm going to shut my car. Okay, anyway, this is Pixie signing off, and speak to you soon.